Welcome to the Evening Review. My name is Okwane, and joining us in studio is proponent for the Basic Income Grant, Ms. Rosa Namises. Welcome back to the Evening Review.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yesterday, we saw that the old age grant for pensioners was increased by $200. The president, before he passed away, said that he'd hoped that it would increase by at least $2,000 to at least $2,000 or $3,000. Are you disappointed that government was not able to honor the late president's desire?
Thank you for the question. I think there are a lot of issues surrounding some of the decisions that are made, and one of them is this one. Disappointing. Of course, disappointing in the sense that a living person, he was just 3 weeks ago, he was alive, but I think it was before 3 weeks ago, even before he was sick, last year, that already he has spoken around increasing not only the old age grant, but several projects that was talked about. And I think those projects were mainly important projects, including the old age grant. And I think when the president was speaking on increasing to 2,000 to 3,000, I'm sure he had several things in his head, and that was really the living cost, which we are sitting with now, very high. Then it was also how that money is utilized by the elderly, because I think they are supporting half of the family with that money, which is not supposed to be the case, but because of poverty in this country and because of unemployment in this country, they become the safety net. And I think that was what he was considering. And also I think his considerations was also because these people have contributed a lot in their lifetime to this country. And when I say even a lot is that they are also can be and should be regarded, some of them, as veterans of the struggle. So when you don't increase, but the veterans, today we call them old age pensioners, it becomes for me quite a questionable situation, because it was already last year. So how did it happen that suddenly we are just giving them 200? And you look at the veterans, they are also selective few. They are not inclusive with the veterans that are receiving these amounts of money. They get bulk money, and then they get monthly money, they get project money. Whereas the elderly, who also have contributed to this country's development, to this country's culture, to this country's peace and tranquility, is sitting all this time. And it is a new thing. You should know that our pension support or pension grant is not a long story. It is quite a short story. And already it suffers that situations. It's very disappointing. It's also disappointing during the time that a person who looked forward to support elderly people has passed on, and that cannot be even honored. Actually, in our culture, when a dead person or a live person who has died has put their will or their thoughts on something, those of us alive is actually asked or tasked or made responsible to honor that wish. And it's unfortunately elderly people, and they are disappointed. I have spoken to some of them, especially the women, feel very much the pinch. They were looking forward to sit either with a 2,000 or with a 3,000. So now you have such disappointments. They are also, remember, they are also voters of our electorates. And when you disappoint them, and you are to ask them to put trust in you and vote for you again. So I was just thinking when these decisions were coming about so much money that goes unaccounted for in our country. So much monies that are given to leadership position holders, where allowance, they call them some kind of allowance, some travel allowance, some entertainment allowances. There are just so many allowances. There are so many trips that people are taking on. And all these monies are monies from the pocket of the taxpayer. And there is just also so much money that are missing in the different institutions that are unaccounted for, but most probably known by those who handle and those who are entrusted with these monies, that we today say we cannot. The reason was it's 720 million something if you give the elderly. Now when you count all the other monies that are going back and forth, vanishing in the country, you think, is it really realistic? Is it a beautiful way of using the trust and the responsibility that we are given? On this side, you are holding back from somebodies that could have enabled many other family members with that money, and now you denied them because you say you don't have enough. But on this end, the same accounting authorities knows that so much money is being spent on people who, for example, if I receive a salary of 30,000, I don't know whether I need entertainment allowance again, or I need extra monies to spend around. I think I have a 30,000 allowance or a salary, and that's enough to help me so I can give to the next person. Because as Namibians, I think we should really start to look at how we are spending ourselves with money. How are we stretching our money that comes from the taxpayer? And are we putting it to the right spots, for example? I'm worried about many situations, like the hospital. The very elderly people are supposed to go to that hospital. And if they don't have tablets, sometimes they are asked to go and buy from the hospital pharmacy. We are asked to go buy the medicine. I have bought several elderly people's medicine because the hospital pharmacy didn't have stock. So where do they get that money to do the extras? Also, I think besides them, they own the houses still. Of course, everybody promises them. Our city, our other towns have really done their best. Not many, but they have done their best to write off some debts for the elderly. For example, they have to be responsible to pay the water and electricity, or they have to be responsible to buy water and electricity. How do they cope with that and still buy the food? When you buy a combo, it's around 600. The one that is 300 is not fit for everybody. So they will buy every third day another $300 combo. So it becomes quite a challenge to live and to survive. That's why we are even saying to our leadership and our Ministry of Finance to give the $500 for a basic income grant to those who are 18 to 59 years, so that the elderly, now that they're sitting only with a 1,006, that 500 can help to lift the burden from them, so that the young people can. Now we cannot even give a voucher. Then if we give a voucher, we are strengthening those organizations, those shops and Pick and Pays and Woermann and Brock's and many other outlets there with extra money. and that money would not go to the person. So I see the food bank is stopped also. And you're wondering, how would it be? Then it's proposed that they get 600. But that 600 is a voucher. It will not help us, especially people who are unemployed, young, and have children themselves. So instead of them receiving even that 600 themselves, and not necessarily will they take it to Pick and Pay. There are cheaper places where we can buy food, and you can buy in a different way. If it's a household of 4 young people, then they have 2,000, and they can see how they can utilize that money. So doing this to the elderly people, I feel we have put them back 4 steps.
If we take the old age pension aside, do you think that government, that there are other, are you satisfied with other programs that government has in place to support the elderly and the vulnerable?
I mean, which is the programs? There's, for example, Ministry of Health and Social Services is having a program where they create the Association of Elders. But it's to bring them together emotionally maybe, and they are also tasked to organize themselves in their different places. There is elderly homes, but it's not run by government. The elders have to pay to stay there. They pay. It's some, like the one in Gobabas is run by the city or the council of Gobabas. The one here in Windhoek is mostly run by individuals and supportive organizations, you know, and the elders are paying, they are making contributions. That again is a problem. So there is no program, as far as I have seen, a beautiful program for the elderly that is run by our government. For example, the elders' homes that I know are managed by private people in Swakopmund, in here Windhoek, all over, in Grootfontein, those places. There's beautiful homes. They employ staff, they take care of the elders, and they manage it beautifully, very well painted and well worked out, which is different from the ones that is run by the councils. So with that shortcomings, I thought some elders are still at home, and they really need to be supported. Actually, a 3,000 could have really helped them. So, and then also the programs that we are having, I think was the Red Cross, but it's not anymore that strong as well, because I think ultimately our elders' support and help should rest with our government, yeah, and then with their children. So how do we ensure that the children are bringing their part? They are 50% of their 40%. They are, most of them, unemployed young people, elderly people. They have no specific income, and they are also mostly surviving from bits and pieces in the communities. So it is a call to have a whole overall program that will see the elderly through in health, in their conditions. They have, some of them, chronic diseases that cost money. They need to be in a hospice sometime because their time, they get really old, and some are attacked by Alzheimer's and many things. They need professional care, and so they need to stay in those places. Sometimes they end up in the Paramount, but they cannot. They end up in the medical place, which is Katutura, or any state hospital. And we know the state of affairs at those hospitals. I also know that the late president wanted to build a better intermediary hospital or a more highly quality Katutura hospital, second Katutura hospital. But that also, it seems in the budget, it's not possible. Yeah.
The basic income grant, there's repeated calls for this basic income grant, like you mentioned, to be implemented between the ages 18 and 59. How responsive is government to listening to the coalition or to listening to civil society? And is government at all having that conversation?
I must say, when the late president was the prime minister, he was maybe the only one who appreciated what was done by the church and civil society in Ochivero. And in that time, he also contributed money to our cause. And then he was then the president who came, when he became the president, had set up the poverty eradication ministry and really appointed a person for us. Then he was the one who also came on with Harambee and the food bank, which was something beautiful. We have interacted with several government officials, and I think the responses were negative all the time. And one wonders why. And as an activist and as a person who fights for the basic income grant all these years, we have seen that when people are given the responsibility to take charge of the resources, they introduce something that they call power control. I think all the time the weak people are more violated, the weak ones. You would see that when those in charge are breaking the law with squandering the money, it's not coming soon or urgently. But when there is decisions to be made not to give or to give to those that are weak, it takes so much a quick decision. And that says to me that there is power within the power control and a power game within the distribution of wealth. And it's really injustice. It is injustice that is happening to our citizens when for so long we have to fight for universal grant to be given, and there are so many examples in other countries. We have presented all that we could. We have discussed, we have compared, there was research done, pilot, practical, and so. And when our president came and he put Harambee, the food bank, I think that was the best that could have been coming close to what we are asking for. And now that we are asking for the basic income grant, why is it not implemented overall to those age groups that we are asking, so that they can supplement those that are 60 and up, and then those that are day 1 to 18 as taken care of by the children's grant. I think it is a beautiful combination, but whether it's seen in a way that it can solve our problems of poverty and unemployment by the government institutions is a big question mark. Do they see what we are saying? Are they able to buy in? And if they don't buy in, why don't they say why they don't buy in? Every time we just hear about there's no money. But we know that that is a rhetoric answer. We need to be clear, unpacking our billions that are coming in and then unpacking them. For example, it's said that the military budget is so high, and they are standing all the time amongst the top 4 always. And my question is why? Why is this budget so high? The social budget for social services and social protection, I think that should carry the bulk. Those would be the education. Of course, education is something that also suffers from lack of schools, lack of proper facilities and so. So besides that, we are told it's free, and yet, of course, it's not free. We spend a lot of money, which is not given by government. As parents, we spend money to our private schools. So for me, I think government has to really play a very pertinent role in making sure that the calls like the basic income grant is answered to. It has been too long.
I want to ask a last question since we are running out of excuse me, since we are running out of time. And just in brief, given that the late president was involved when he was prime minister in the Basic Income Grant Coalition, how best would you remember him and his efforts to address issues around the elderly and poverty?
Mm-hmm. How best do I remember? I think you remember a person after looking at how the person has conducted affairs of the nation, or affairs where he or she was given a responsibility. And for me, this late president was one of the people that we had been criticizing quite a lot. But in his response, you know, when you are criticized, you want to go and answer, but I didn't do this. And in his response, in the silent response, he would bring out those criticisms in answers on things that was important for the people. One of those, like we said, was the introduction. You know, I have been in this country for quite a while as well, and I knew that people with disability or children's grants were given $72 by that time. And then it came to 100 and something. And he addressed that question, and he increased that money. He increased the money of people with disabilities. He increased the money of the elderly. And he was still wishing to do that. And he would have done, I'm sure the picture yesterday would have been different, and if he was there. So for me, I want to remember him in his administration as a consistent person, but also as a person who has the heart and the mind together, and who would face the reality on the ground. I think also, I think he was listening to both how he was criticized, but also to how we were expecting things from him. He was one of the first people who created the town hall meetings. And you know, there is nobody else that is going to do that. But you know, that interaction at the town hall meetings was quite a beautiful thing. And I think he has picked up our needs, and both positive and negative, and that was how he built his program. So I'll remember him as one of the people who used his power position very socially and very humanly, and gave it to us back in a manner that we could be satisfied. I mean, the 200 is given, but the 1,400 is his ticket. Everybody, being an elder, would be very happy about that amount that they were given, and knowing that if he was there, he would have added what he promised. So it's also a person that one must remember as holding promises. I think what I know is the president was saying to us this year, expect. It's a year of expectations. And I was saying into my silence, what was it that he was saying to us, expect, besides his death? But expect, it's a year of expectations. So maybe it was a year of expectations to hear the promises that was made by him. So that must have been the year. So expect that you will get your increase of the pension, expect that maybe the health facility will be improved, expect that the housing would be addressed. So before he would go off, maybe those would be the things that he was going to offer us. So yeah, I think I remember him really as a person who does not answer you in your negative insults, but answers you back with deeds and actions.
Thank you very much for joining us on the Evening Review.
You're welcome.
And that concludes this edition of the Evening Review. Have yourself a pleasant night.